Guys, welcome to the podcast. Today is Sunday, June 12th. The deadline for Arizona bighorn sheep, deer, and buffalo is due Tuesday, June 14th. And you can apply online. Go to azgfd.gov, I believe, or .com. Not sure which one. Make sure you get your applications in with the new system for the non-residents out there. 5% of those tags that usually go to the max point holders, there's a 5% random draw. So now as non-residents, you actually have a chance to draw 13B, 13A, some of those better deer hunts. The 5%, the 5 and 5 new rule change does not apply to sheep, but I've been getting a lot of emails from people asking whether they should apply, and my answer is yes, of course. I mean, this is the first year in a long time that you actually have a chance to draw the best deer tag in the state of Arizona with 0 points. I mean, it can happen. So make sure you get your apps in, and I want to thank you guys for all your support of this podcast. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and on our blog at jscottoutdoors.com and colburn&scottoutfitters.com, and on our Gould's Turkey website, gould'sturkeyhunt.com. Please also go on iTunes and give us a good rating. Give us a 5-star rating and a good review. That helps our placement on iTunes. I want to commend you guys for all your support. I think I announced in the last podcast we have passed over 2 million downloads, which is mind-boggling. If you think about it, that's a big number, and just appreciate all the support that I've gotten from you guys. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. Actually putting together some episodes answering a lot of these questions. I get multiple questions every day, and I'm happy to answer. Usually I answer the same day, a lot of times within the hour, as long as I'm not fishing. Speaking of fishing, the rivers up here in Colorado are about at their peak. Water's coming over the banks in a lot of spots. The Roaring Fork River is really high and chocolatey off color. The Eagle is high. The Colorado River is high. And it's just a great time. Those fish get a little bit of a break and get to flush that river out. And the snow melt is awesome. You can see it receding up on the big ridges and big mountains, and it's just a beautiful time of year. Guys, Go Hunt Insider, I wanted to remind you their giveaway for the month of June is 5 Kuiu tents with a retail value of $2,250. Make sure to sign up for GoHunt.com Insider, because every month you get a chance to win great prizes and gear, and this month is no exception with the Kuiu tents. All you have to do is be a member to have a chance to be in the drawing every single month, and make sure to use the JScott promo code when signing up, and you'll automatically get a $50 Kuiu gift card. Guys are right. This is, critical time right here before the monsoons hit. We had a few storms in Arizona. I know up here in Colorado, it seems like the very next day after a good rain in Arizona, we get storms here. And if we can there's some fires burning. If we could just get past this critical time of, dry lightning fires and such, and get some great summer monsoons, I think it'll be another great year. So the elk are really growing. I've been getting some photos of elk that are really packing on the inches, and that's exciting. Guys, I also withdrawing this Utah beaver elk tag. I've been a little bit out of archery, and I'm kind of rejuvenated, and I've been really enjoying shooting my bow, and it's just really fun. I forget how much I love the sport of archery and all the things that go with it. So it's been fun up here trying to get ready for this elk hunt and encourage you. I've been listening to a podcast with John Dudley. It's called Knock On Podcast. And if you don't listen to it and you're an archer, you need to. It is a fantastic podcast. John Dudley is obviously very, very well known, real technical guy, but he's got some really good hands-on approach. He shot 3D competitive for a long, long time. He's an archery coach, and I just really enjoy that podcast. I'm going to try and have him on as a guest. I think he would be a great guest. Today we are going to be talking with Brec and Bronson Bundy of Utah. They live just in the suburbs of St. George, Utah, and they're born and raised on the Arizona Strip, which is right there south of St. George, right on the Arizona line. And this is going to be a great episode to get to hear the two brothers. Brec was fortunate last year to harvest that giant 270 or 80. Just a giant, non-typical buck. Want to say his mainframe was 224. That's off the top of my head with a bunch of trash. And he was also the guide. Parker Colburn, my guiding and hunting partner, Dar, his son drew the tag, and they hired Brec Bundy, and Parker shot an awesome, studly heavy buck, 220-inch buck up there on the strip. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. Feel free to send me an email at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. And thank you guys for all your support. And please support the sponsors. You'll hear throughout the podcast a few commercials with some promo codes, getting some discounts from these great companies. So, guys, let's keep training. Let's keep preparing for these hunts that are coming, and look forward to hearing and seeing all the great stories and trophy photos and such that are coming this fall. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got the Bundy brothers. We've got Brec Bundy and Bronson Bundy. How you guys doing?
Doing really good, Jay. How about you?
Good. It's going to be great to talk to you fellas at Mule Deer Addiction Outfitters. What do you call it, Brec?
That's it. Mule Deer Addiction Outfitters. We just abbreviate it MDA. Outfitters, but, yep.
I call you guys the Dream Team. Bronson and Brec and Brett and your whole team. Last year, my hunting partner, for the listeners out there that don't know, my hunting partner, Dar Colburn's son, Parker, drew the 13B strip tag, and Dar hired Brec and his crew to find Parker a buck, and I was fortunate to be up on the Arizona Strip last year in 13B in the Bundy camp, and had just a ball with your whole crew, Brec. And obviously, for the people that don't know, Brec drew a tag as well, and Dar called and says, hey, Parker drew, and we're all set to go, and Brec drew a tag too, and we were just on cloud nine in the fact that we knew that you were going to put an unbelievable effort in, regardless if you had a tag or not, but we knew that you having a tag, you had extra motivation to get out there and pound it, and it obviously worked out great for both you and Parker, and it's just great always to spend time with you. I was fortunate to spend time up in your camp a couple years ago when Daniel Franco had the tag, and just two great guys. I'm excited to talk to you. Which one of you is older?
I'm actually older, Jay. This is Brec. So I'm about 4 years older than Bronson.
Okay, and Bronson, how you doing, and how have you done this year? Have you drawn any tags, or do you have any hunts on the horizon for you?
I'm doing pretty good. I didn't fare very well in the draws this year. I did draw a Colorado antelope tag, and that's about all I'll be doing. We don't necessarily have a lot of time to do a lot of our own hunts. We spend most of our time on the strip, so when we don't get out as much as we like out of Arizona. So.
Well, speaking of getting out, I know that you've fallen victim a little bit to a bug that a lot of us guys in Arizona have kind of fallen victim to, fallen prey to, whatever you want to called the coos bug. And I know your brother Brec is laughing, but you've had a chance to go down to Mexico, and I think you even drew a tag in Arizona and shot some bucks there. And what do you think of those coos deer?
It's probably one of the most fun hunts that you can do other than mule deer, in my opinion. I mean, there's just something about them, the mystique about them. It's kind of like mule deer, same type of hunting, glassing. They're fun. It's definitely an addiction. I never thought I would even really ever hunt them until you and Franco and everybody else got me into them. And now I look forward to Mexico again. We're going again this year, and we're looking forward to it. So it is fun.
Yeah, I happen to know the ranch that you're going to this year. Dar and I made a scouting trip down in, I believe it was February after the hunts, and an unbelievable property and big property, and we've got high hopes for you guys going down there and hunting this year in Mexico. The question is, are you going to be able to drag Brec away from the strip to get him to go down there with you, or is he just going to snub his nose at it?
That's about what's going to happen, Jay. I can't get him away from the strip ever. I don't know if I've ever, maybe other than a general hunt once in a while, I can sneak him out for a day or two, but rarely do we get him off the strip. So
it's my home away. It's my home away from home, Jay. That's where
I was going to say, Brec, you have two wives. You've got your lovely, beautiful wife, and you've got the Arizona Strip.
That's it. That's exactly right. And the good thing is my wife and my boys love to go out. They were actually out with me this last week, and so they love to get out there a little bit with me as well. But when it starts getting this time of year and it gets really hot, they at least my wife anyway, she tends to want to stay home a little bit more this time of year. But
yeah, you were out just this last weekend setting some cams and stuff. Tell me about how hot was it, and what are the conditions looking like out there on the strip, Brec?
The vegetation's actually still looking pretty good up until, just the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty cool, and I would say below average even with temperatures. But when I was out on Sunday by, I think it was 11 o'clock, just looking at my truck thermometer there, it was 100 degrees in Main Street Valley. And so it was pretty dang hot. But a lot of the stock ponds, cattle ponds, a lot of those had water. A lot were dry. Like I say, the vegetation still looked pretty good, and hopefully we can get a few more storms, or at least one storm, this month. Usually, May and June are our driest months, and then we hit, right around the 4th of July or the following week, we usually start getting that monsoon moisture, and it tends to happen every year like clockwork. So, but it would be nice to see another storm from now till then, but I don't know that that's going to happen this year.
Yeah, Daniel Franco sent me a text last night of a kind of a freak thunderstorm blew through his town, and it looked like it was, mid-monsoon and, raining to beat the band. Let's hope that, maybe you get a freak storm, or maybe it'd be awesome to kick up some early monsoons, maybe the end of, June, and get that moisture. Brec, I want to ask you about last year with your hunt. Did you have max points when you drew that? And, what were your expectations going into the hunt?
Yeah, I did have max, Jay. I had been applying for, I believe it was 20 years. I actually started applying before Arizona went to the bonus point system. And so, obviously I live right here in southern Utah, just, 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from the strip, the Arizona-Utah state line. But yeah, I did have max points, and it's kind of funny. Once everybody knew I drew, or a lot of my friends and family, they're like, "Yo, you're gonna kill a giant," and I had realistic expectations, if you will. I mean, I wanted to kill the biggest buck I knew about, but at the same time, if I saw a 220-inch buck, in the first few days, I wasn't gonna let him walk, and so that was kind of my goal: kill the biggest buck that I could, and it just, the stars all aligned for me last year. I mean, to draw the tag is awesome. To draw it on such a good moisture year was incredible, and then obviously to kill a buck like I did was just something else and beyond what I could have ever dreamt of.
Yeah, and Bronson, I would ask you, when you found out that your big brother drew the strip, you were probably every bit as excited as he was.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, we're pretty tight knit, him and I, and we've been running around out there since we were kids, dreaming about that kind of opportunity. So it's almost like having a tag. When you have a tag in the family, it's almost like having your own tag. And so we get excited when things like that happen. And it was like you said, it was an awesome year to have the tag. There's no doubt about it.
So I got to ask you, just between you and him, is he hard to live with now?
Every once in a while he'll rub it in a little bit. But, hey, he probably deserves it. I always tell everybody I think he's got the family record, as they say. I don't know if that one's ever going to be topped. So, unfortunately,
yeah,
I'm kind of out of luck in that category.
Yeah, you're going to always be playing second fiddle, I'm afraid, on that one, as well as everybody else in the world. Now that we've talked about that buck, Brec, for the people out there listening that don't know, tell me a little bit about your buck. I was fortunate to see it and have my hands on it and drool all over it. But what did the buck end up scoring? How many points? How wide? Give me the full scoop on it.
Well, he was, just start with point breakdown. He was 20, I believe he had 21 or 22 scoreable points on his right side. And his right side, I believe, was 156 inches, something like that. And his left side, I believe he had, I'm looking at him right here, Jay, in my office, 14 scoreable points. Yeah. I don't have the official score sheet right in front of me, but I believe his left side was 114 inches or something. Outside spread was 35, I believe. His inside spread was kind of his weakest spot on him. It was 21 inches, I believe. But anyway, he ended up, we scored him multiple times, and he ended up officially, and I haven't entered him in the books, but I believe he was 284, 286 gross, and netted 273 or 274. But anyway, so I mean, just unbelievable, and we actually had field taped him, at 287 and change, and then we had we didn't, it was, obviously before the drawing period was up, but we had an official measure score him, so it was kind of a green score, and he actually came up with 290 inches is what I believe we actually had posted green score. And then so anyway, that's kind of the breakdown of him. I mean, just a buck that you just can't, I don't know, to see a buck like that, let alone have an opportunity to kill him, is just something else, and so
yeah. One of the things that struck me on it is once Parker killed his buck, and just a massive, Arizona Strip massive buck, and then to see the two of them together and then realize that your buck is actually quite a bit, I would say, heavier than Parker's, that kind of put it all in perspective. Not only does it have, tons of points, but it's got incredible mass and just a great frame. Just an awesome buck.
Yeah, I believe the typical 4-point frame was 215 inches or somewhere right in there. And the one cool thing is, I mean, my buck has 7-inch bases, and he does carry his mass up pretty well. But that buck Parker killed, I mean, just the mass all the way up, every point is just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, no, definitely two very, very unique bucks. And certainly, when you start talking about the family record and stuff, the Bundy family, there's a lot of big bucks that have been killed in your family, and that's just a tremendous, thing that, honestly, and it. I mean, the likelihood of you ever seeing a buck like that again is very rare.
Yeah.
And just incredible. So it's a little bit turning a little dry on the strip, but good spring, good winter moisture. Your anticipation, if we just have a average monsoon, you're thinking going to be a pretty good year?
I do. I think with some of the bucks, and talking 13B specifically, I think with some of the bucks that we know about that made it through the hunt, and then with that hunt being a week later, than it always has been, I think you're going to see. I think 13B is going to produce some really big bucks again this year. And so, that being said, the Game and Fish, obviously they swapped the two hunts around, and the reason being, I understand why they did it, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to manage for an older age class buck. And so on 13A, they haven't been able to accomplish that the past 2 or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. And so, by switching those hunts, 13A is going to be a lot tougher hunt. 13B is going to be, 1 week later and closer to that, right in the middle of the rut. And so, the only concern I have is with that hunt being that week later, it's going to basically turn into, you're going to kill off the older age class buck. So it's going to go right back to kind of how 13A is now. But I completely understand why the Game and Fish did that, trying to help that 13A unit and achieve their age class objective.
Yeah, let's talk about that double-edged sword here after the break.
Okay, sounds good.
Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they are open to whatever you can dream up. Choose from a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicles, steering wheels, fenders, dashboards, paint guns, fishing rods, cups, tripods, watches, knife grips, helmets for a local sports team or for your motorcycle, picture frames, mailbox, animal skulls, you name it, they can probably do it. Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turns them into something that looks fantastic and eye-popping. Give them a call and see what they can do for you and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at utahhydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics. Whether you are interested in elk, deer, antelope, bighorn sheep, or moose, Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines will bring the adventure to your mailbox. These publications feature articles on the finest hunting gear, tips and tactics from experienced hunters, field judging trophies, glassing techniques, calling strategies, and much more. To become a more knowledgeable and skilled hunter, subscribe today. Go to westernhunter.net/jscott and enter your email address for a chance to win a $1,500 credit towards any Swarovski product.
I definitely hear what you're saying, guys. It will make for, I don't know how it can get any better than last year. I mean, across the board, there were some tremendous bucks, not only in your camp, but other camps. There was some tremendous bucks killed. And I'm not so sure that this year there will be better bucks killed. I just think that, the hunters that draw this year are going to get to see, we had pretty good rut last year from the get-go, and I just can't imagine being a week later, but conditions could change. It could be dry. It could maybe be just the same activity level as last year, but can you imagine if you get some early snows and stuff, and if those bucks, if they just really turn on, how as a hunter and being able to guide up on that hunt, how that 13B going on those late dates, I mean, it could just be an unbelievable experience.
It absolutely could. And like you said, this last year, I think you and I, when we talked last year on the podcast, we talked about, certain years, we've seen really good rut activity early. 2008, I know we talked about that before, but We had an early storm come through just like we did this last year, and it didn't dump 3 or 4 inches, but it got cold, and I think that really helped get those does in heat, and the bucks followed right along. And so if you had even say a storm like we did this last year, and the conditions were right, that hunt being 1 week later will just be phenomenal. And I'm with you. I don't think you're necessarily going to see more big deer killed versus last year. It was just an unbelievable year. But yeah, I'm in total agreement.
Yeah, and do you think that is there a chance that if the right conditions come in, that every doe group will have a buck with them, and it'll just be Katie bar the door, so to speak? Do you think it can be that good?
I don't know if I would say it's going to be that good, but it could be close to that. Every little group of does you find, you're always going to have those little pockets of does or groups of does that maybe, don't come into heat quite as quick as others. And so those bucks are still going to be kind of traveling, the ones that don't link up with those does. And so I don't know that it would be quite that good, but it's still going to be, still could be unbelievable for sure. I've seen in years past, you get even after the hunt, a week or two after the hunt, right in, during Thanksgiving or whatever. It's just unbelievable watching some of these big bucks, fighting over does and everything. So,
you were telling stories. I've heard you guys sitting around a campfire telling stories of, driving around Thanksgiving and stuff where like a 200-inch buck will literally walk right by the truck, just walk right across the road and not even look up.
Yeah, there's, we go out there quite a bit after the hunts on that prime time rut, just to, to go out and video and hang out and whatnot. But it seems like every time we go out there that time of year, it's just, you're always seeing those big bucks, and they just don't have a care in the world. And that's, and that's what the perfect storm comes. And with that hunt being late, that's what we're going to get, and it's going to be phenomenal. So,
Bronson, a question for you, and then I'll have Brec answer it or weigh in on with his 2 cents. With the new change of Arizona, with not all of the 10% of the non-resident tags, because you both are non-residents, with 5 going in the max point pool and 5 going in a random draw, I know you both don't have max. You guys have got to be feeling pretty chipper about the fact that you actually have a chance to draw a 13B rifle.
Absolutely, and everybody has that chance, and that they've opened the doors, and it's made it, it gets you a little excited when you're putting in for the hunts now. Every year you put in for Arizona, and I drew my tag a few years back, but the excitement's back now. Someone has to draw the tags. It's not a high rate of success by any means, and everybody knows that, but there's still that chance to hunt, the greatest unit in the world as far as I'm concerned when it comes to mule deer. And man, I actually put in yesterday, and I made my heart start pumping, knowing that I had a chance again,
Yeah, my question will be, how hard will you sock your brother if he drew 2 years in a row?
I don't think I'll be the only one that gets to pump, thump him a little bit. So,
our good friend Brian Rimza, Jay, he told me when I told him, I said, I just, and going back to me drawing the tag last year, how fortunate I draw a tag when I still had a lot better odds. I know with the way they changed it, a lot of the non-residents that I talked to that have max points, it screwed their odds up big time, but I draw that tag, and then they change it. So now I can turn around and actually have a chance to draw it again. And I was talking to Brian, and Brian said, if you draw that tag again, you're going to get killed up there. Somebody will kill you if you draw that.
Well, let's hope not. But I guarantee you, I guarantee you'll catch some ribbon from me and Daniel and Brian and Dar, and for sure Bronson and your dad, I'm sure, will be giving you a slug in the arm for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about gear here, just take a little bit of a shift. I know that I got a chance to ride, and you guys have those Razors, and I run a Polaris Ranger, and man, what a difference in the ride and how fast you can get around and how smooth they are. For one, I'll say before I get into it, I thought I could drive fast off road, and not that it's just out of necessity trying to cover a lot of country. And I haven't ridden with Bronson, but my goodness, I rode with Brec, and I tried to wear not only my seatbelt but my neighbor's seatbelt, and was hanging on for dear life. Tell me about using those razors on the strip and what it's allowed you to do.
Well, it's definitely, like you said, it gives us the ability to cover so much more country, Jay. And just going back to one thing you said, you've driven with me. I about guarantee you get in with Bronson, you're going to be wanting to put all 4 seat belts on. He used to race quads, and so he gets in and he goes. He even goes faster than I do. But back to the razors. I mean, they're so nice. The Rangers are sweet. You have a little more space, bed space, and space to put some gear and stuff. But we have all the room we need. We throw a couple, the Rubbermaid boxes in the back, load them up with cameras, throw an ice chest on the back seat, and so it does. It's open it up. I mean, it just saves our trucks and saves us so much time getting from water to water. But just to go a little further, I mean, the comfort of them, we go out on a weekend or, for 3 or 4 or 5 days to go run trail cameras, for instance. I mean, you're putting on 400, 500, 600 miles, in those 3 or 4 or 5 days. And to do that in a pickup or on a quad like we used to, you can't cover the country first. And by the time you're done on a quad or a truck, you're rattled loose, your teeth are all falling out. So it definitely helps to be able to move around and go into that country going that fast and being able to get around that quick. So they're definitely a tool that's huge for us. And the one good thing too, Jay, is like our razors. I ran a Can-Am. I think we talked about that last time, but the razors, they've just been awesome. I think mine's a 1.5 years old, and I've got 5,500 miles, 6,000 miles on it, something like that. And I haven't had any real issues to speak of. So that's been a big plus for us too.
I'm surprised you don't slip into Bronson's garage in the early morning and pull his out and take his out on the strip for 4 or 5 days.
I do actually do that every once in a while, believe it.
I know you do. That's why I said it. What kind of tires are you guys finding from an equipment standpoint? Is there a certain type of tire that you guys have found that works better for you?
Well, me personally, I've run through, multiple sets of the Maxxis Bighorns. They've been an incredible tire, but Bronson, I'll let him kind of fill you in on what he's running on his razor. I've actually went to a truck tire, a BFG KM2, and the reason I did that is, it's like Brec said, he's run through multiple sets of tires already, and I just get sick of changing tires out. So I actually went to a truck tire. And they're,
so a full radial tire?
Yeah, full radial tire. It's something that someone would put on their, their pickup truck to go out there with, and it's just they've lasted so much longer, the wear on them, and we haven't, and I haven't had any issues with it. So that's what I've went to, just to get the miles out of it, the longevity.
How much different size-wise are they, say, from the Maxxis Bighorn that Brec's running?
Mine are, they claim they're an inch taller. I think I'm running 30-inch tall tires, but they're probably in reality 2 or 3 inches taller of a tire.
So you're getting a little bit more clearance?
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more clearance with them for sure.
Gotcha. You doing anything to the engines with the air filters or anything, or are you just running stock?
No, we've kept everything on ours is for the most part stock. I mean, we run the roofs and some of the the things that just make it a little more comfortable, the windshields and the roofs to keep the sun off and things like that. But as far as motor work or any of that, it's just all stock. We just air filters and oil changes for us constantly with as many miles as we put on out there. But one thing, Jay, that we actually just got, and it's pretty slick. Me and Bronson both. We went on a big ride, left from St. George here and went all the way up to our property on 13A on Mount Trumbull, and then went on down to the Grand Canyon. A group of us. I believe there was 8 side by side, 6 or 8 side by sides, and good group of friends and family. But anyway, Bronson's brother-in-law was running, they're called rugged radios, and they're he has it inside, and we've both got our radios wired up inside our razors now. And anyway, what they come with is, you can get them in a 4-piece headset or whatever, but it makes it so nice. You put the headset on, you can play your music, you can actually talk to each other. It's just Vox activated. And so if me and Bronson are sitting next to each other in the razor, we're doing 60 miles an hour, and he wants to talk to me, you don't hear that engine noise, and he can just talk like we're, standing still, basically. And so it's pretty slick. And then we've got it to where, we can actually transmit and talk to our trucks and everything else. And so it's been a really slick. I think I've had mine in for about 3 weeks now, and I love it. It just changes the whole riding experience. But
that's great. That's good stuff. I always like hearing about that kind of gear. Guys, I want to shift a little bit to the archery hunt. And I know, Brec, we've talked before on the podcast about hunting the strip on the archery hunt. And, it's interesting with the dynamic this year of, the 5% in the max pool and 5% random. Walk me through again a little bit about the archery hunt and some of the pros and cons as people are trying to decide what to apply for.
Well, when we talked last, a lot of it, is weather related. I mean, you get heavy monsoons, and Bronson can talk to that point. He had a tag in 2013, and I believe it rained 19 or 20 out of the 21 days of his hunt. And it wasn't just a little bit of rain. I mean, it rained more than I've ever seen it rain on the strip that summer. But from that, I tell a lot of guys, hey, if it's hot and dry and you don't mind sitting water, we're going to have you sit water. We'll glass, us as a group, we'll glass. If we find a buck in a spot that we can go in and get you close, we're going to, we'll pull you out of the ground blind or whatever and go do that. But like this last year, we had some moisture, but it wasn't enough to not sit water. So we actually, my hunter this last year, well, we did a combination. I mean, we did a lot of spot and stalk last year, and we sat water. But it just kind of depends on the year. One good thing about the archery hunt, there's only, I believe, 25 tags on both units, 13B and 13A, versus the 75 on 13B this year, rifle tags, that is, and so there are fewer tags. And so, seems like a lot of times, obviously there's going to be a few guys that are going to want to hunt the same buck because of the trail cameras and stuff like that. But yeah, if you get a hot and dry year, I mean, it can be awesome, sitting on water and waiting for a big old buck to come in. And obviously our trail cameras play a big part in which deer we're going to hunt, which deer we can sit water on, if he's coming in consistent, not coming in consistent. And so anyway, that's kind of on that end. But I know, like Bronson, like I say, and he can probably fill you in, that 2013, I mean, it was a rough archery season, probably the worst I've ever seen as far as just the amount of moisture. I mean, it was just unreal.
Yeah, let's take a quick break here, and then I want to ask Bronson a couple questions about that.
GoHunt.com Insider is by far the most valuable tool a Western hunter could give themselves. GoHunt.com Insider are the industry leaders and #1 source for Western hunting for a lot of reasons. GoHunt.com Insider have changed the game for how hunts and hunting information are found. Within a matter of minutes, using Filtering 2.0, you'll be able to filter by state, species, residency, odds of drawing a tag, specific hunting dates, and harvest success percentages to find the hunts that fit exactly what you're looking for. If you are a guy that applies across the West or just in your home state but want to find some new opportunity, there's no better way to do it than using GoHunt.com Insider. As an exclusive offer to my listeners, if you sign up for a GoHunt.com Insider membership for $149 a year and use the promo code JScott at checkout, you'll receive a $50 KUIU gift card. Head on over to GoHunt.com/insider and get yourself the most valuable membership a hunter could have. I have known the owners of the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix for over 20 years. They are the authority on optics and hunting gear. Outdoorsman's is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods, mounting accessories, and pack systems for all hunters. Their customer service is the best in the business. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the J. Scott promo code to receive 10% off any Outdoorsman's products.
So, Bronson, you draw 13B, right, in 2013?
13A.
Okay, you draw 13A.
Yeah.
And then it just, high expectations, and then all of a sudden it's just raining and raining and raining. Mentally, how hard was that to deal with?
Going in, we grew up out there. Going into it, it's our dream. That's our dream hunt. I mean, that's what we've dreamed about since we were little kids, is being able to hunt the Strip. And then to get out there and that happened. I mean, mentally, it wore me down. It was tough. It was brutal. Not only did the Strip, I call it the Strip factor, mentally, it's there already, and a little bit of pressure, you want to kill something big, and you want to, and we have expectations that are, we keep them in check. We know what it is, and I, a 200-inch deer with my bow, I would have shot it. But it was tough. There's no doubt about it, to have that come in and rain on us, and I never pulled my bow back once. I had some opportunities at some 180 type bucks, but that wasn't what I was there for. And so it was mentally draining, and I'm not going to lie, I'm still trying to recover from it 3 years later. So, but it is what it is, and we move on. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's all you can do. The conditions, you can't control the conditions. You can only control your attitude, and you can only control your effort. And, try as hard as you can and give it the best shot you can. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then, sometimes your name is Brec Bundy and you kill a 280 some inch deer too. I mean, it's like, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And we've all kind of been on that spectrum. And I think, it's important as those hunts are going on and, it's raining and raining and raining. I think you just got to keep plowing. And maybe you guys can speak to that as to how, when you guys have faced some tough situations, how you just keep going and let the passion that you have for it, keep pushing you forward.
Yeah, and when you're out there, it's the Arizona Strip, from a day-to-day basis, things can change in a quick hurry. There's good years, and then there are some years that aren't so good, and you just you got to prepare yourself mentally for it. They're 10-day hunts as far as a rifle hunt, and you just got to push through it, knowing that any second, any day, as long as you're working your tail off, and and all of our guys and Brec and I mean, we work our butts off. We'll just push through until it happens. I mean, and sometimes you have to, change your game plan a little bit. But mentally, that something's going to change, and it's the Strip, and it can change in 1 second. You glass up the right buck, you get in the right spot, and it happens. So you just push forward, and you never let you never don't get upset, and just stay in it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Guys, I'm kind of a history buff, and I love hearing about, history and heritage. And I know, Brec, on the last podcast you covered it, but I'd like you to kind of talk about it again. Your family, going back to your, I believe, great-grandpa, walk me through a little bit about the history of your family on the Arizona Strip. I just think it's a really neat story that you guys, whatever generation you are out there, fourth, fifth, I'm not sure what it is, but tell me a little bit about the history of the Bundy family out on the Arizona Strip.
Okay, yeah. I am not the best with the history, but let me just kind of go back to like my grandpa. Obviously, my dad's dad, he was actually born and raised out there on the Strip. He was the oldest, I believe, Bronson may know this, of 17 kids.
Wow.
And anyone that's been out there, he was born and raised just north and west of the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse actually sits on their old homestead property, which was a full section, a mile squared. And so anyway, he being the oldest, you know, I heard a lot of stories growing up of him at a, you know, young age, 10, 11, 12. You know,
what was his name, Brec?
Chester Lamar Bundy was my grandpa's name.
Okay.
And so anyway, I heard a lot of stories of him. They ran, back in those days, they ran a lot of sheep on the strip. It wasn't necessarily a lot of cattle like it is now. It was sheep grazing and stuff. But anyway, he would, at the age of, you know, like say 10, 11, 12, he would be sent down into what they call Mule Canyon to kind of watch over the sheep. He'd be there for, you know, a week or two on at a time, all by himself. He, his horse, and his dog.
How old?
You know, and
how old?
10 to 12, I think. I want to say somewhere there. And so, because I believe they only went to school up through the 6th grade out there. Maybe not even that much. I don't even know if he went that high. But anyway, just, you know, I look at that and think, man, that takes some doing, a lot different than nowadays for sure.
Can you imagine dropping your 10-year-old off out there with
yeah,
with his mule?
Yeah, can you imagine the 10 or 12-year-old kids nowadays drop them off out there for 2 or 3 weeks without their iPads?
Yeah, I can hardly go away from my Wi-Fi signal.
Well, that is one thing about the Strip, Jay, and you know it. It's hard to get any cell service. So once you get out there, you're kind of bowed away from civilization. But
yeah, for sure. And so your grandpa ended up running sheep and cattle and the whole thing out there?
He did. Yep, he did. I believe he moved into St. George. I want to say when he was around 18 or 19, he came into St. George and, you know, just for work, you know, to find work and stuff like that. And he ended up working his whole career. He was a bulldozer operator for Local 12 Operating Engineers Union in Las Vegas. Did a lot of work in California and stuff like that. And so.
And then your dad obviously grew up there in St. George. I want to hear about when your dad was taking you guys out on the Strip, how old you were, and maybe some of the stories about you guys when you were little tykes out there bouncing around.
Yeah, there was plenty of bouncing around. He drives about like we do, and that's where we learned it from. But he, you know, there's a lot of memories. I mean, you know, everybody has their spot or their place that they go when they're young. You know, they go to the mountain or they go to the lake or they go. I mean, our place was the Arizona Strip, and we were going to the ranch. And you know, some of our guys will be out there and we'll say, hey, pick us up at the pond where we were when we videoed that 4x5 4 years ago, or when we were 15. You know, people are like, you guys don't even know the names of these things. We don't even know where you're at. You got different, you know, there's so many memories of so many different spots out there that, you know, but it was awesome growing up out there. You know, my dad would take us out there and he would find a track on the pond and off we would go. You know, at 3, 4, 5 years old, he was packing us around, and yeah, I mean, that's what we did.
I think my mom said my dad started taking me out when I was just a year old. And so, and probably the same with Bronson. I remember one day, I can't remember how old Bronson was, but we had an old Honda 3-wheeler, a big red 3-wheeler. And it was his turn to drive. And so he was following behind us on the 3-wheeler, and I was in the truck with my dad, and he kind of got behind us a little ways and we couldn't see him. And so I got out and started walking back, and he had actually flipped that 3-wheeler over on a piece of sagebrush. And I don't know how old he was. He couldn't have been more than 8 or 9, but I was sure nervous. I went running back, and my dad went running, and luckily everything was okay. He was okay, but.
And that started the quad races.
Yeah, that 3-wheeler was the beginning for sure. But we called Brec. I mean, he liked to get stuck in the ponds. We were constantly pulling him out of ponds on that 3-wheeler.
I don't know what it was, Jay. I love to go and see how far out in the pond I could get on that big red 3-wheeler. So I've since learned my lesson. I don't like cleaning mud off all my stuff, so I try to avoid it if I can.
Yeah, for sure. Wasn't there some story you guys broke down out there and you ended up riding on the 3-wheeler, like from way out there all the way into St. George?
Yeah, we were actually out on Trumbull, and my dad had an old Toyota pickup that he had for forever. It was just a 2-wheel drive, and there was a little bit of snow on the ground, and it warmed up and melted off, and we couldn't quite make it up a hill,
and we couldn't get back up the hill we had come down. So we were just stuck. We ended up leaving it right in the middle of the road, but we ended up having to push that three-wheeler to get across the flats because it was so muddy and messy that the front tire and the fork would get all plugged up with mud and it just wouldn't go. So we ended up pushing it about 3 or 4 miles, I think, to where we finally were finally able to get a little traction and drove it all the way 65 miles back into St. George, me and my dad and Bronson, all three of us on that old Big Red.
Oh, man. While we're talking stories, Bronson, did your big brother ever torture you in any way? And if so, I want to hear about
it. He can laugh now, or I guess I can laugh now because I don't worry about him too much anymore. But no, he, you know what? He's been pretty good to me. I mean, he started me out at a young age, and he caught the addiction at a young age. I mean, you know, and he's, I've been fortunate enough to be able to go out there and to have him show me the ropes and show me over the last 15 years or 20 years, you know. I mean, when I was 10 years old in summer break, you know, and he was old enough to drive, he would load me up with his buddies and allowed me to go out and film, you know, and glass with him. And so, you know, he didn't really, not too bad. We got along probably the best out of all the siblings, I'd say. But he's been good to me, and you know, he's taught me a lot. So he didn't torture me too much. To go back to your
I want to know how much he just slipped you under the table, not to tell a story on it.
Jay, he said he doesn't worry about me too much now, but I can still take it.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be fun to watch. I'm sure that would be. I'd actually pay to watch that. That's fun stuff right there. Great stuff. Well, guys, tell me a little bit about any gear that you've been using that you have found really works for you. And I'm sure you're going to have a little bit differing opinions, and I'm curious whether it's optics or trail cams or boots or what have you. Kind of want to hear about some of the gear that you're using and what you guys like.
You bet. For the most part, Jay, we're on the same page as far as optics goes. Me and my dad, I think we touched on that a little bit last year, but me and my dad use the Leica Duo Vids. They're a 10 to 15 by 50 binocular. It's awesome because I just pack around, you know, I have a pair of 10s and 15s around my, you know, neck all the time. But Bronson and the rest of our guys, you know, Brett and Brecken and, you know, I can rattle them all off. But anyway, they're all using the 1556 Swarovskis. And you can't beat that glass. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then we're all using, we're taking a page out of your playbook, Jay, and going to get the 95 millimeter Swarovski for this year. So I'm looking forward to trying that out and using it. But
I'm sure your wives are real thrilled about that $5,000 investment.
Yeah. I had to sell my old spotting scope and a pair of other binoculars I had to talk my wife into it. And she says, "Well, how much more is it going to cost even above this?" And I said, "Oh, don't worry, it's not too much." But
only two kids, and yeah. So you guys, you're going to switch to the 95 millimeter spotting, the Swarovski spotting scope.
Yeah, we're all switching to the ATX. As a matter of fact, I think we've all got them coming. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
And so I'm excited to use that adapter too, Jay, the one you were filming Parker's buck with your SLR. I'm going to get one of those coming. I'm actually looking forward to using that to do a lot of filming and taking pictures this year. But
yeah, you know, that Swarovski TLS APO adapter is really good because it doesn't let any light in, and it's real easy to slide on and off. And I've gotten some of the best images I've ever gotten, both photograph and video, you know, with that setup. So I think you guys are going to really like it. And I have, without a shadow of a doubt, can tell you that, you know, that 95 millimeter Swarovski, that 30 to 70, is by far the best spotting scope I've ever looked through. And, you know, I've had 3 generations, I believe, of the Swarovski scope before the 95, and it's amazing. You're going to really like it. Absolutely. I do ask you, you went with the ATX. I had the ATX and just I'm so used to a straight spotting scope. I actually switched back to the straight. Tell me what your logic was with the ATX.
Honestly, in our mindset, Brec and I have both used straights. We're going to try the angles out. Brec and the rest of the guys all use angle, but we've been using the Koa Highlanders. And so we thought that just from a comfort level, we're hoping that they're going to be a little bit better for us. And so time will tell on that. We're not too convinced yet, but that's what we've got. And so we'll see what happens with that.
I think being able to, the TLS APO adapter, and any adapter for that matter, I think sits better on the angled because, it's sitting down with a little bit more gravity. But, I've found the straight, I just can find, my target acquisition is just much better. I'll be curious to see what you guys think once you get the ATXs. But I know you're going to love the quality of the optics, and I'm anxious to look at the quality of video that you're going to get. What cameras are you going to run with your what cameras are you going to run on that adapter?
Right now, Brec and I both are running the 70D.
Okay, so that's even better than I'm running a Canon SL1, and the 70D. You're going to get even higher quality images and video than what I'm getting with the SL1.
Yeah. See, I may actually buy an SL1, Jay, just because it's smaller, more compact, easier to carry around, and I believe the price on it's a little bit less than like a 70D, obviously, and so from that standpoint, I'm thinking I may get that SL1 as well and try it out. But
yeah, I think the body's like $300. Yeah. So it's definitely something worth trying. Let's take a quick break here.
Have you guys heard about PhoneScope? PhoneScope is a privately held company that makes custom-molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. Take digiscoping photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. PhoneScope is the future of digiscoping. Get yours now. Use the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope, that's PhoneSkope.com, or on Instagram at PhoneScope. Wilderness Athlete is committed to improving the health and quality of life for the outdoor athlete by providing field-tested, scientifically validated nutrition and sports performance products. Check them out at wildernessathlete.com and use the JScott promo code to receive 10% off any order.
Okay, guys, what other gear do you find is important? I'm curious what kind of boots you guys are running.
That's we're in that right now. We're actually me personally, I run Loas. I'm running the Loa Tibbet. I kind of fallen in love with that boot over the last couple of years. A lot of our guys are wearing Crispies, and they swear by those. And we're actually we've convinced Brec to switch to Crispy, hopefully, and hopefully he comes to love them. But
and right now, Jay, I'm actually wearing just Danner pronghorns, and Bronson's the one that actually put me onto those back in 2011, I believe. And I've loved them. I've had really good luck with them. I know some of our guys, Brett, he couldn't get very much use out of his Danner pronghorns before they were coming apart, but I've had really good luck with them. They fit my foot really well. They're comfortable, and so that's actually what I've been wearing quite a bit over the past several years. But
gotcha. And so you're going to try some Crispy. Bronson, the Loa makes a great boot, and that boot that you're wearing, that's a great sheep hunting boot as well. Is that also the boot that you're wearing in the early season, like on the archery hunt as well?
I personally do. To me, it's the most comfortable boot I've ever worn. So I wear it all year round. It is a little warm because it is a mountain boot, but the stability, they're a stiff boot. I just like that mindset, knowing that I'm not going to twist my ankle and I'm not going to have any issues with that. But to me, they're the most comfortable boot, and I've never I've never slipped another one on that feels like that. So yeah, I do wear them all year long.
That's good stuff. Any other gear out there you guys want to mention?
Absolutely. Kuiu, we couldn't, going through camo over the last 15 years and the way it's come along, but Kuiu, we've all switched to that. We all wear Kuiu. Our trail cameras, we're running stealth cams and this year and they look to be sweet. And so we're excited to run stealth cam. But and one of the big things with the strip is obviously glass, and we talked about the spotting scope, but everybody's got to have a pair of big eyes. The Koa Highlanders, we all of us have our big eyes. So, anyways, as far as gear goes, that's for the most part what we use. So.
Well, I know that last year sitting on the hill, Brec, you and I were sitting together when Dar and Parker were stalking their buck, and you were watching. I didn't have my Koas with me. I had my spotting scope and my 15s, and all I got to say is my hat's off to you guys, because here you've got me and Dar in camp, and all summer long sending us pictures, and you've got us going, well, he's got like a short G3. He's not that wide. He's a little spindly. And you guys probably were just like, who are these two?
No,
you send over a beautiful, typical big 4x4 heavy base buck that I think got killed, and Dar and I were like, is it 200? I don't know. It doesn't. And I'm sure when we showed up at camp, you guys were just like, these guys are a bunch of yahoos.
No, we do that to ourselves a lot too, Jay, just as far as looking at trail camera pictures and trying to analyze them. We talked about that, I think, last time, but trail cameras can be so deceiving, unless you get the absolute perfect angle or actually see them in the glass. It can be a little tricky. Me and Bronson and a bunch of our other guys will argue over certain deer. Oh, there's no way that deer's that big. And I'm saying, hey, it could be. He's got the making or got the potential to be that big. And so it's like that. Well, it's like that typical that I showed you guys. I actually filmed the week before the hunt started, I believe. And
and Dar and I are going, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he's 200. I don't know if he's 200. And Brec finally is like, you guys, you might need to actually see a strip deer killed before you can even open your mouth. He didn't say that, but I'm sure he was thinking that. The thing that threw me off, guys, was the body size. And I think that's what it threw Dar and I off so much looking at the trail cam pics, is those bodies of those deer are huge, giant body.
They are, and that's another big factor that really makes the rack look deceiving. I tell a lot of people these strip deer have giant bodies, big ears, and so it definitely throws a lot of people off.
Till you see one on the ground, you just don't understand how big they are. Hunting them down south like I have, and here in Utah, these deer, there's an Arizona strip factor when it comes to body size. They're almost double the size of our Utah deer. So most people don't realize that. It does throw you off.
I know that the deer that Parker ended up killing, Brec and I were sitting next to each other, and Brec's just so polite. I'm saying, you think he's 200? And Brec finally looks over at me and he goes, Jay, I'm telling you, in my heart, that deer is over 200 inches. And I'm sitting there going, are you sure? And, he was probably sick of me after 5 minutes, and we had to sit there for about 2 hours on the hill. And then, of course, we get up to the deer, and he just smiles. And I'm looking at him, and he's just smiling. And I go, is it big? And he goes, yep. And 220. It's like, yeah. That was a pretty cool experience. Because you knew what you were looking at, and that just goes to show for people out there listening that, you have got to listen to your guide and follow their advice, because honestly, that deer maybe was a deer that Dar and, because he, at times he just didn't look as big, but you've got to listen to the guide, and the guide was saying that deer is over 200 inches. That is a deer that you guys need to really consider. I liked how you didn't tell them what to do. you told them to use their own decision, but that, that's definitely a deer you think is over 200 inches.
Yeah, and that was it too. I mean, and we had a great time sitting next to each other, I thought, Jay. Up there, going back and forth, being able to watch that big old bruiser get up and walk around. But he was definitely a deceiving buck. I mean, he doesn't have a big, giant, typical frame, but he's got 30-inch beams and mass to spare, and 36 wide, and he just didn't have it. But we'd actually killed a buck really similar back in 2011. I remember Franco, had mentioned that hey, I know this buck's bigger than that one, and it obviously it definitely was. I know when we walked up and saw him on the ground, I was like, anybody care to adjust their scores? Because I said this deer's 210 all day long, and then to have him, at 221 or 220 and some change or whatever. I mean, I think it kind of baffled all of us, but just a neat old buck.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the time up there with you guys, getting to share camp with, family and friends, and just everybody that was around in our camp. Just seemed like there was a great camaraderie, and, having your dad there, and, having Brecken there, obviously Brett, just an awesome camp, awesome experience. I look forward to doing it again. I know some friends that are really itching. Danny Bright, there's friends that are itching to draw the tag and go hunting again. And I really appreciate you guys spending time with us here. Wondering if either one of you have any kind of concluding thoughts here before we take off here.
Well, one thing I was going to mention earlier, Jay, was just the age on mine and Parker's buck, just for all your listeners. My buck was ended up aged at 8 years old, so he was right in his prime. Parker's deer was 9 years old, and so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So we definitely took a couple older, mature age class bucks, which is always a bonus. And so, but
yeah, and if anybody, we get a lot of phone calls, but if anybody has questions, hit us up. We're more than willing to talk about the strip. We love it. We can talk all day, every day about the strip with anybody that any information or to know how things are going, they can get a hold of us. So give us a call. I think we'd love to talk.
Yeah, so. I think it's like I said, Jay, I think it's going to be another good year out there. I don't know that we'll necessarily top last year. I think it could be as good, just my personal opinion. And so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll bet you the quality of hunt will be every bit as good if it will just, get cold and get a few storms. I bet the rutting could be phenomenal. The guides up on the strip, or you guys are a breed of your own, and you guys are unbelievable at what you do. So honestly, I think you don't necessarily need the extra 7 days and into the rut more. You're still going to kill big deer. But I think for the client or for the hunter that draws it, they're going to get to witness probably a more rutting activity and just deer moving around. And I think, that was something that, I'll never forget last year, for as much rutting as there were and getting to see those mule deer rut, which where I live, I don't get to see as often. So, from an experience standpoint, I think the later 7 days, it's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm in a total agreement with that.
Okay, guys, where can the listeners find you? I know you're on Instagram. Tell me your handles on Instagram and Facebook and maybe your website.
Yeah, our website is muledeeraddiction.com, and we don't do a whole lot on Facebook anymore. We concentrate a lot on Instagram. It's kind of fun. You can throw up a picture and stuff, but our handle on Instagram is MDA Outfitters. And it's the same on Facebook, MDA Outfitters.
Awesome. Well, you two take care, and I'm going to get ready for when Brec draws again so I can sock him in the arm. You do the same. You do the same, Bronson, so we can slug him hard in the arm when he goes, I drew again.
You don't have to worry. We'll be slugging him.
I'm sure. Well, you guys, God bless you, and have a good summer, and enjoy your scouting out there. And we'll probably touch base right before the season and see how things are going with the bucks out there, and look forward to talking to you again.
Sounds good.
Hey, thanks, Jay.